So how did I get from here to here? Hi, welcome back to Chadwick Model Railway. I'm Charlie, and in this episode we've got trains running, we've got board alignment, we've got a bit of wiring with junction boxes, but we'll start with back scenes. So on to the back scene then, and here's the back scene, the replacement back scene from Art Printers, and that's art-printers.com if you need to look them up. And when these back scenes are printed, there's a white edge on the top, bottom and the ends, and obviously on the ends you'll need to remove it, so with a steel rule and a scalpel on a cutting mat to make sure you get a straight edge, and therefore that should butt smoothly against this edge here, all being well. I've marked out whereabouts the back scene should go, hopefully, and the instructions say you don't paste the back scene, you only paste the wall. That's not, it's advice, so I'll take it. But what I will do in the meantime is I will paste the wall in a moment, and that's called sizing the wall. It's just giving the wall a chance to suck in any of the wallpaper paste so that the wall is more moist, as it were, so it doesn't dry out too quickly. And then give it half an hour or so, and then I'll paste it again, and then offer this up. And the way to do it is you roll it up, put the end on, and then hopefully roll it back as you smooth it. And the tools I've got for this is, there's a bucket of wallpaper paste over there, and then I paste it onto the wall with just a 4-inch paintbrush, and then this is a wallpaperer's brush, and you don't put paste on here, and this is to smooth the air bubbles out of the paper once you've got it on the wall. And all we then do is just keep our fingers crossed and hope I don't make a complete mess of it, which I have done in the past. There should be a link here. It is a funny video. Right, so as I mentioned, it's just a case of whapping a bit of paste on the wall and then leaving it. I mean, nothing could really be that much simpler, really, could it? Well, it's about 20 minutes later now, and I've just put on the wallpaper paste. This is a real coat, and so hopefully I'll keep the bad language down. I always find this bit quite scary, really. Of course, the main thing is not to get wallpaper paste on the actual picture. So, tools, I need me pasting brush, and I've also got an old clean towel in case I need to wipe any glue away. And so, here we go. Let's just try and zoom you in a little bit. Okay. I'm sorry if I've got my big head in the way here. And I think that's as good as we're going to get. There's a bit of paste there. That's a good start. The trick is not to come off the paper, because then you'll end up with paste on the brush. Well, that's the back scene in, and on the face of it, it pretty much looks okay. A little bit of a issue over here because it's not an exact match. As you can see, as the into the town goes into the old back scene, the new back scene is somewhat lighter. But where the tree is in that area there, you know, there will be trees and everything else. But that's not the main issue that I have this time. This time it's the fact that I know this cottage isn't necessarily straight, but I've managed to put the back scene rising up to one side. And it's about sort of ½ an inch higher at one end than it is at the other. And if I turn the lights down a little bit, and then hopefully you can see I've put a laser leveler at one end, and you can see how much it's off. So what I think I'm going to try and do is scalpel the excess off the top, because you'll never notice the vertical nature of the house is getting a bit more wonky. But the trouble is it's starting to rise up to where I put those shelving brackets. So what I think I'll do is take a scalpel and a ruler and scalpel off the line that's drawn by the laser leveler. I just get the feeling I've been here before. Yeah. Well, it comes off easier than it goes on. Still, we've got a spare. So it's all come good in the end. I used the back scene from art printers that had the two black dots on to replace the one that I tore down. But the lesson was to paste the walls and paste the backdrop, and therefore they went on much easier. But now, of course, I've got to get rid of these black dots. So I've used a drop of enamel paint to paint them out, and I've still got a little bit of work to do on them as they dry darker. Still, we got there in the end. So with the back scene finally in place and my shameful admission behind me, it's time to now move on and get this bird's nest of cable sorted out. So I'll get board 4 back in place and then get underneath it and put all this together. Clearly nobody likes climbing underneath their layout and wiring up boards, and one thing I try to do is to do my majority of the wiring when the boards are on their sides prior to the installation. And the reason for the extreme headgear is because I'm forever smacking my head on the bottom of the points and everything else. So this floppy old fishing hat does the job. Of course, it's only when you start running trains that you realise that perhaps your track laying wasn't as good as you thought it might be. And someone noticed in last week's video where a high mech comes from the fast inner through this point, through this double slip, and here there's a join in the boards. And as the changeover came, you can see that the train rises over and goes along kind of like a hump. And what I did was I jacked up this board on the inside batten by 1.5 millimeters, and I did that by cutting a piece of plastic card and poking it in the gap. And then also with this, so that's that end of the board jacked up, but this end of course was still a bit low. And on these boards, on some of them I have adjustable feet. So it's just a case of winding the foot down to drive this board up. I'm now left with a bit of a lip here, but we'll worry about that when it comes onto the scenics. But when that high mech comes around here now, there is a small rise, but you don't see it kind of going over a hump as you did previously. And these are the adjustable feet in question, and the price of these is £2.50 from squirestools.com, and it's just a case of bolting it to the side of the timber and then obviously adjusting the foot up and down to get your boards at the correct height. Quite a simple, ingenious little device really. If you're not too familiar with this layout, here's a quick whiz around the room. So starting, here's board 4 with the river scene, and then as we swing around, you can see one railway line in the distance, and that's the hidden DMU line that will run here into this station, which the idea with this would be curved to give it a bit of extra interest. Where those straight platforms are, that will become a track that rises up an incline and then goes across the river scene to get to a branch station which will be above the fiddle yard. And as we head back down, we come through boards 3 and 2 and then up onto board 1 where the start of the incline is in build. The plan is from the scenics that are sort of 90% done across the viaduct, we then come down to the sort of the new area, and the 2 tracks at the back that are just sat in the middle of nowhere are the ones that will feed into the fiddle yard, and the 2 in front are the ones for the scenic area that comes down on the far side of the layout. Now these arches were part of the old Chadwick TMD. As you can see, there's a fair old few, and sadly if you're after some, I cannot remember for love nor money where I bought them. It was at a show, and they're very thin plastic, and they come in lengths of 3 arches in a small strip, and then we move up to the far end of the layout. Behind these arches is going to go the fiddle yard, and hopefully it'll be have enough space for a 12-lane fiddle yard. And then on top of the arches, going out towards the rest of this room, excuse the mess, will be the branch station. And then we're back to board 4 with the river scene. Now another thing I wanted to take a look at today was the use of junction boxes and these type of terminals. These are the ones I've been using lately as straight terminal blocks, i.e. a cable in and a cable out, or you can use something like these short-in links and you turn it into a bus bar. But getting away from these old-fashioned type of chocolate blocks, these are much more versatile. So using ferrules as well, let's have a closer look. Now I'm sure most people are used to these type of terminal blocks. You simply unscrew it, shove a wire in, do the screw up and then put them on the other end, and there we go. But they are quite limited, whereas these are known as plug-in terminal blocks. So you can easily disconnect them. Now whether it's on an exhibition layout where you put your cables together when you build the boards up at a show, or as I do, you just use them as a fault finding method, then they're absolutely ideal. And these are 12-way ones, and they are from squirestools.com, and they come in, I think it's 6 amp and 10 amp sizes. I think this is the 6, and I've used this one before as a jumper cable between 2 boards. So on the boards you'd have the female ends, and then all I would then do is plug the 2 males into the 2 females to join the boards up. These are so simple and so useful. If you're in the US or you're stateside, I really don't know where you get these from, but in the UK and Europe, squirestools.com is the ideal place to buy these. And as I say, you can simply cut them down to size. You can have them 1, 2s or up to 12s, but a really decent piece of kit. Now my other current favourite is this 12-way terminal block, and again there's a link down below to these, covered by a little plastic plug-in cover. Quite straightforward really, and you get them in I think it's 12, 10s and 6s, but you get with it a little buzz bar like this. And if you loosen off the set of screws, then you can place this buzz bar across the top of it, screw it down, poke your power in, and then you've got 12 outlets for your power out. Absolutely cracking idea. And I've used these extensively on the layout now, and I'm sure if you've been paying attention, you've seen them on the master board. But the other thing that lends itself is, so when we get our wires and we plug them in, which is the best way of doing it? Well, I've made some mistakes as usual, and first one I opted for was this type of, I think it's called a spade or a fork crimp. And you get yourself a pair of crimping pliers, and this is a 5 amp cable. So all you do with this, let's just get rid of that one for now. So with my favourite wire strippers, give it a twist, and one of those red terminals, and this is known as a fork or a spade. You can see why it's called a fork terminal, obviously. If I zoom in a little closer, and then because it's red, with these crimping pliers, all you do is place the red one into the red jaws and then try out your strength. And there it is, and it really is on completely solid. Now if you go to this terminal block, of course all you need to do now is simply screw it down. And the worry you don't have is that the odd strand of cable is going to end up on the adjacent terminal. This is brilliant, but I'm not too sure whether I did the right thing, because this pair of pliers is very much a one-off kind of thing, because there's not a lot else you can do with them bar crimping on large spade connectors. Whereas I bought this little kit here, and there's links to this down below, with this pair of crimps, and then obviously as you close them you can see those jaws close up. And I worked out the various sizes for various cables. So 702, I need an orange, and here's a 702 black cable. So if I just strip this one back, sorry it's jammed up from the previous one. If I strip these back, give it a twist, 702 is orange, and I pop this orange ferrule on there and then simply crimp it up, and I'm good. And that isn't going anywhere. It really is a good hardy crimp. And going back to one of these type terminals, you can just poke it in one side and screw it down. And if you actually had two feeds off this particular one, you can get one in the adjacent section as well. But if you wanted to save space, or whether you were doing it on this system here and you wanted to put two cables into the same terminal, then two 702s will fit into the size 16, which are the yellows. So you would just use a yellow and pop two 702s. And if I were just to do that a second and show you how simple it is. So I give them a twist, pop them together, and then with the yellow ferrule, slide it on, crimp it up. I really think this is so straightforward. And the thing is, you can't pull these things off. I mean, yeah, no, not at all. And obviously you can feed them into these type terminals and then just screw them down. One thing I have noticed though about using these is when you're screwing them in on the female side, then it does come through on the little long side, which is no big deal. So I just go back, snip a little bit of it off, poke it in the hole, and then simply screw that one down. Ferrules, quite straightforward really. Orange for 702, yellow for 16. I use white for the 5 amp and the red for my 8 amp. So various cables, various sizes, but all straightforward. And here is one of my board-to-board connector blocks. So you have two different circuits. There's the outer circuit and the inner circuit, and here's the power feed, which splits into 3, and again here into 3, and there's the negative that lines back, and an earth, and a couple of spare terminals in the middle. So for fault finding, I can simply disconnect it from the rest of the layout when you if you have a snag. But these things are absolutely ideal. Well, hopefully now you agree that we're starting to make some real progress at Chadwick, and all the items I've covered today should be in the Show More tab down below. And on the subject of down below, don't forget to leave your comments if there's a particular subject you'd like me to try and cover. As usual, I'm extremely grateful for the people who donate to the channel and of course my patrons. And please don't forget to subscribe and give us a thumbs up and hit the bell icon of course, and a video here and here to keep you out of trouble. Stay safe, thanks a lot, take care, bye bye.